Welcome, deep divers. Have you ever paused to truly consider what fundamentally drives human action? Or maybe what separates an organization that doesn't just survive, but, truly thrives?
These aren't just abstract philosophical questions, are they? They're really at the very core of our daily lives, our professional endeavors.
Absolutely. And frankly, our ability to navigate a pretty complex world effectively. Today, we're embarking on a genuinely fascinating journey, I think. A true deep dive into a really meticulously curated stack of sources.
That's right. Our mission really is to extract the crucial insights, the things that illuminate why we do what we do, how we compete, in this complex, ever-evolving world.
All right.
And maybe most importantly, how we can actually enact meaningful change, both personally and, within the organizations we lead or influence.
And this isn't about giving you like a single how-to guide or some kind of one-size-fits-all solution.
No, definitely not. Instead, we're aiming to build a more comprehensive, robust mental model, something drawn from real-world experiences, cutting-edge psychological research, expert analysis.
Kind of a shortcut to being well-informed.
Exactly, and critically well-equipped.
And what's truly exciting, I think, is the sheer breadth and diversity of our material today. We're pulling from everything.
We really are. Deep dives into the psychology of decision-making, exploring our, predictable irrationalities.
Which are fascinating.
Venturing into the cutthroat, often high-stakes world of finance and business strategy. Examining the strategic mindsets of military leaders under, extreme pressure.
Yeah.
And dissecting the intricate challenges of building and scaling great companies.
It's a really rich, multi-perspective exploration, and it often reveals something quite profound, doesn't it?
It does. These seemingly disparate topics, from the boardroom to the battlefield, they frequently reveal surprising universal truths about human behavior and, effective action.
So let's not just scratch the surface. Let's really dig in.
Okay, kicking us off, let's talk about how our minds, despite our best intentions and, our belief in our own rationality, are often, predictably irrational.
Okay.
One incredibly powerful concept here, something that shapes so much of our judgment, is what psychologists call the affect heuristic.
The affect heuristic.
This basically refers to how our emotions profoundly and often unconsciously influence our judgments. We don't just think about things, we feel about them.
Right.
And those feelings just color our entire perception.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because it sounds like it's more insidious than just having a gut feeling, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like if we like a particular technology, for instance, we tend to perceive it as having fewer risks and more benefits almost automatically.
Right. And the opposite if we dislike it.
Exactly. If we dislike something, we're quick to see it as having fewer benefits and more downsides, even when the objective facts might tell a completely different story.
Jonathan Haidt's observation captures this perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The emotional tail wags the rational dog.
Precisely. The real insight here isn't just that our emotions play a role, it's how this creates this sort of imaginary world where decisions seem incredibly straightforward because our feelings just gloss over the complexity. We convince ourselves that a good technology, for example, has virtually no costs.
And a bad one has no benefits.
Exactly. This emotional shortcut doesn't just simplify things, it actively blinds us to the uncomfortable reality of painful, unavoidable trade-offs that exist in nearly every significant decision we face.
That makes sense. It's why debates, whether in politics or business, often become so polarized. We're not just disagreeing on facts.
No, we're fundamentally reacting from a place of emotional like or dislike that then just pre-colors our perception of every single piece of data.
Wow, okay.
And what's fascinating here is how this fundamental human tendency plays out in practical settings, particularly with something called cognitive simplification.
Cognitive simplification, how does that work?
Well, managers, for instance, often try to simplify complex decisions like acquisitions or divestments. They might narrow down a multitude of variables into just a few easily digestible points.
Right, makes it manageable.
But potentially overlooking critical nuances or external factors that could radically alter the outcome.
So it's our brain trying to cope with too much information.
Essentially, yes. It's a tendency many investors also share. They assume the world operates on these orderly, predictable processes like a straight line.
Instead of, chaos?
Well, maybe not chaos, but they often tend to ignore the inherent randomness and the broad probability distributions of outcomes. They base their entire strategy, their whole portfolio, on a single, often incorrect scenario.
Trying to be exactly right just once.
Exactly. When the lesson here is profound,
Yeah.
trying to be exactly right once is far less effective and significantly more dangerous than consistently getting it about right most of the time.
By acknowledging uncertainty.
Yes, by acknowledging and planning for uncertainty. But that's tough, isn't it? In a business culture that often rewards definitive predictions and bold, singular bets, how do you actually cultivate that kind of probabilistic mindset?
That is a powerful question. It really highlights that human tendency to seek comfort in order and predictability, even when it's just not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
This resonates deeply when we look at biases in forecasting and evaluation, especially in financial markets. Like in a random walk down Wall Street.
Right, the forecasting errors.
Exactly. Individual market forecasts are often wildly erroneous, yet when you aggregate them as a group, like averaging out a whole bunch of predictions, they tend to appear more correct than any single forecast.
It's a subtle point, isn't it? About collective wisdom, sometimes masking individual hubris, or maybe just diversifying away the individual errors.
Yeah, and speaking of individual analysis, academics love to pick on technical analysis.
Or they do. And for good reason, often.
This approach, trying to predict future prices based on past patterns and volume, it looks compelling in hindsight, right?
It can, yeah.
But when you test it rigorously, especially after you factor in transaction costs and taxes, technical analysis frequently doesn't outperform a simple, passive, buy-and-hold strategy.
It's an easy target for academics precisely because its lack of consistent, provable success challenges that very idea that predictable patterns hold a lasting edge in efficient markets.
So it reinforces the idea that even seemingly sophisticated methods can fall prey to, well, predictable irrationality and maybe an illusion of control.
Indeed. And it's not just about what we think or forecast, it's about what we feel and how that drives immediate action. The scarcity principle is a prime example of this.
Scarcity. That one feels familiar.
It's a true master at leveraging our predictable irrationality. The perception of limited availability drastically increases desire and drives purchases, often bypassing rational thought.
Like on travel websites.
Exactly. Think about Booking.com when they started displaying messages like only 3 rooms left, or limited number of rooms still available right next to their listings.
Did it work?
Oh, did it work? It led to such a dramatic and immediate increase in conversions that it was initially mistaken for a systems error by their own customer service team.
Wow. They thought the system broke because people were buying so much.
Pretty much. It just shows how deeply ingrained that trigger is. That little pang of I might miss out is incredibly potent.
It really is.
Absolutely. It's a powerful psychological trigger used in countless sales situations, from a car salesperson telling you only 5 convertibles left on the lot and they're selling fast, to a real estate agent mentioning, this is one of only 2 unsold corner lots in the entire development, and we have another offer coming in this afternoon.
Creates that urgency.
Exactly. The implied urgency and the fear of loss override rational consideration, leading to rapid decisions and often increased willingness to pay. It's a direct appeal to our emotional tail, expertly wagging that rational dog. Hashtag tag 1.2, cultivating effectiveness and growth.
So, okay, we've unpacked how our minds are wired for this predictable irrationality. From the emotional shortcuts of the affect heuristic to that powerful, almost irresistible pull of scarcity.
Right. These are ingrained tendencies that can profoundly shape our decisions, often without us even realizing it.
But what if we could actively cultivate behaviors and mindsets that help us overcome these biases to drive more effective, value-aligned action?
That's the key question. This isn't just about passively understanding our flaws. It's about actively building new habits and capabilities.
So let's shift focus now to maybe the powerful concepts of proactivity and cultivating growth.
Exactly. Let's start with proactivity, which is far more than just taking initiative, although that's certainly part of it.
Okay, what else is it then?
It's about being truly responsible. Having the ability, the freedom to choose your response based on your values, rather than just reacting to conditions or external stimuli.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about it this way. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your initial impulse might be frustration, anger, maybe even road rage.
Sure, happens all the time.
A reactive person might honk, yell, flash their lights, maybe even tailgate, right? They're letting that external event dictate their internal state and their actions. But a responsible person pauses, recognizes that impulse, and then chooses to respond in alignment with their deeper values.
Like what?
Perhaps taking a deep breath and letting it go because their value is calm or safety, or simply not letting external events control their day. It's about owning that precious space, that pause between what happens to you and how you decide to react to it.
So reactive people are swayed by their environment.
Often, yes. If the weather's bad, they're mood tanks. If someone treats them poorly, they become defensive and lash out. Proactive people, however, carry their own weather with them.
Their own weather. I like that.
They're driven by internalized values and principles, not by external conditions. This highlights a unique human endowment, the freedom to choose our response between stimulus and reaction.
It means taking ownership.
Exactly. Recognizing that our behavior is a function of our deliberate decisions, not just our circumstances.
Wow, so being truly responsible is about actively choosing our perspective, our internal weather, regardless of external storms. That's a powerful idea.
It really is.
And it genuinely makes me wonder, if we have that freedom to choose, how do we strengthen that muscle? How do we move from just knowing we can choose to consistently making that choice, especially when things are tough or emotionally charged?
Well, this ability to choose your response ties directly into the power of practice and mindset. You know, Angela Duckworth's work on grit.
Grit. Great book.
It emphasizes the importance of deliberate practice. Echoing Anders Ericsson's extensive research on expertise development across all sorts of fields, chess masters, musicians, athletes.
This isn't just repetition, right?
No, not mindless repetition. It's intentional, focused effort to improve specific skills, push past comfort zones, and get immediate constructive feedback. What's truly fascinating, though, is the mindset shift that occurs. Moving from seeking the thrill of mastering something easy,
Which feels good initially.
to actively finding joy in tackling something truly hard. That's a profound sign of a changing mindset, a reorientation towards growth over mere comfort.
Like that phrase, this is hard, this is fun.
Exactly. It suggests a fundamental change in how we perceive challenges, transforming them from obstacles into opportunities for growth and mastery.
And that reorientation towards growth must be fueled by learning, right? Adaptability.
Powerfully fueled by continuous learning and radical adaptability. Look at Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart. He famously said he learned from everybody, and he genuinely meant it.
He wasn't too proud.
Not at all. He wasn't too proud to observe and adapt successful strategies, whether they came from his direct competitors like John Dunham or from tiny independent retailers across the country.
He'd actually visit their stores.
Yeah, physically visit stores, take notes, integrate successful ideas into his own burgeoning empire. This continuous seeking of knowledge and improvement, this relentless curiosity, is central to maximizing evolution, both personally and organizationally.
It's the no pain, no gain principle applied to development.
You could say that. As echoed in Principles, Life and Work. To truly grow, to evolve, we must be willing to embrace discomfort, learn from every source, successes and failures, and consistently push the boundaries of our current understanding.
Being a perpetual student of the world.
Exactly.
Ultimately, this path to effectiveness seems to culminate in what people often call emotional intelligence. Specifically, self-awareness and self-management.
Absolutely crucial for leadership in any context. Self-awareness involves, really, 3 key components.
Okay, what are they?
First, emotional self-awareness, that's understanding your own feelings, your moods, and the profound impact on your decisions and everyone around you.
Right.
Second, accurate self-assessment, having a realistic, honest grasp of your strengths, and crucially, your limitations. And third, self-confidence, a strong, positive, yet grounded sense of your own worth and capabilities.
And self-management.
On the self-management side, we're talking about, first, self-control, the ability to keep disruptive emotions and impulses in check, much like our responsible person in traffic. And second, trustworthiness, consistently demonstrating honesty, integrity, and reliability in your actions.
These aren't just soft skills, are they?
Not at all. They are foundational pillars for anyone hoping to effectively lead themselves, build strong relationships, or influence others meaningfully. They are the bedrock of reliable, impactful leadership as laid out in Leadership That Gets Results.
Yeah.
Hashtag 1.3, the role of information and perception. Now let's consider a fascinating paradox of information in our modern age. From a black swan perspective, public information can actually be quite useless for generating profit in efficient markets.
Useless. How so?
Well, because the market, being highly efficient, already incorporates all widely available information into asset prices almost instantaneously, once information is out there, widely known.
Its edge disappears.
Exactly. Its value for gaining a unique, actionable edge diminishes significantly, sometimes right down to zero.
It's a pretty radical idea, isn't it? The author of The Black Swan, Nassim Taleb, he took this so much to heart, he actually stopped consuming daily newspapers and TV news entirely.
Is it right?
Yeah. It wasn't an act of ignorance, though. It was a deliberate strategy to filter out what he considered noise.
Makes sense. How much time did he save?
He estimated it freed up a considerable amount of time, an hour or more every single day, which, over a year, allowed him to read over 100 additional books.
Yeah.
The point being that merely consuming widely available news often doesn't provide a unique advantage. In fact, it can be a significant distraction.
Like information toxicity.
Exactly. It keeps us from deeper, more insightful learning and more valuable, less predictable sources of knowledge. It's about being really discerning with what we feed our minds.
Yet for businesses, data-driven decision-making remains absolutely vital. But the key isn't just accumulating vast quantities of data.
It's more than just having the data.
Oh, yeah. It's about quality, speed, and effective communication. Blitzscaling emphasizes the importance of investing in infrastructure that supports fast, data-driven decisions.
So not just collecting data, but using it quickly.
Right. It's not enough to simply collect data. You must have systems to analyze it rapidly and convey the critical insights effectively to decision makers in a timely manner.
And what's critical might change.
Absolutely. As a company grows, those key stats will evolve dramatically. LinkedIn, for instance, initially focused heavily on user registrations as their primary metric for growth.
Makes sense for a startup.
But over time, they realized that a more accurate predictor of sustained value and business success was long-term user engagement.
Not just who signed up, but who stuck around.
Exactly. Who is truly active, building networks, deriving value. This shift required adapting their data collection, analysis, and communication infrastructure to focus on the metrics that truly drove their business forward.
This connects beautifully to how marketing itself is fundamentally about shaping perception and guiding behavior, often with specific information and framing, like in breakthrough advertising.
Right, some fascinating techniques there. For example, instead of directly stating a benefit, you can project the results of a problem being solved or an accomplishment achieved.
How does that help?
It attracts people who might reject a direct statement or be intimidated by the effort involved. Or you can turn a claim into a challenge for the reader, engaging them more personally.
Like those old ads, which twin has the Tony, or does she or doesn't she, for a hair dye?
Exactly. Those methods don't just convey information, they engage the audience emotionally and intellectually.
And national advertising. That's about consistency, right?
Yes, with its frequent insertions and continuous presence, it faces the complex challenge of maintaining brand continuity and reinforcing core desire, while simultaneously varying its image just enough to keep it fresh, relevant, and compelling, without losing novelty or becoming stale. It's all about subtly guiding and reinforcing perception over time.
But there's a flip side to all this information, isn't there? The downside of information overload, especially with social media.
Oh, definitely. Research from the age of surveillance capitalism presents a pretty sobering picture. It links increased Facebook use, specifically activities like liking content, clicking links, posting status updates, to compromised well-being and significantly diminished mental health.
Really? Even small increases?
The findings indicated that even small increases in these specific social media activities were associated with a measurable decrease in self-reported mental health and life satisfaction.
Wow. What was the conclusion?
The researchers' definitive conclusion, based on their findings, suggests that individuals might do well to curtail their use of social media and focus instead on real-world relationships.
That highlights a critical, often overlooked need for discernment in how we consume and engage with information, and maybe with others, online.
Absolutely. Recognizing the very real cognitive and emotional costs involved.
Okay, now that we've explored the inner workings of our decision-making and the complex role of information, let's step into the arena of action. Let's examine the fundamental drivers of strategy, competition, and value creation.
Right. A foundational concept here, often implied even when not explicitly named, comes from competitive strategy. It's all about understanding the structural features that determine competitive forces and, ultimately, industry profitability.
This sounds like Porter's 5 forces.
It's essentially what Michael Porter's 5 forces framework addresses, yes. It provides a powerful lens for analyzing industry structure. The idea is that an industry's profitability isn't just about how efficient your company is.
It's bigger than that.
Much bigger. It's about the collective strength of 5 fundamental competitive forces. First, the threat of new entrants. How easy is it for new companies to jump in?
Okay.
Second, the bargaining power of buyers. How much leverage do your customers have to drive down prices? Third, the bargaining power of suppliers. How much leverage do your suppliers have to raise prices on you?
Right.
Fourth, the threat of substitute products or services. How easily can customers switch to something completely different that fulfills the same basic need?
Like switching from coffee to tea.
Sort of, yeah. And fifth, the intensity of rivalry among existing competitors. How fierce is the competition already in your industry?
So strategy is about positioning yourself against these forces.
Exactly. It's about finding a defensible position within an industry that insulates you from these forces, or, even better, proactively influencing these forces in your favor to tilt the playing field.
Changing the rules of the game.
Precisely. It requires digging below the surface to analyze the sources of competitive pressure. That then profoundly informs a company's strengths, weaknesses, and potential strategic changes. It's like knowing the rules, not just how to play, but how to change the rules themselves.
That's a crucial distinction. It moves beyond just being good at what you do to understanding the underlying power dynamics of your entire ecosystem. This makes me wonder about the most powerful levers for influencing those forces. What's truly fascinating when you dig into this is how a seemingly simple concept like scale can become a profound structural advantage.
Oh, absolutely. Netflix's streaming business, as highlighted in 7 Powers, is a prime illustration of scale economies.
How so? Their original content.
Well, their relentless pursuit of exclusives and original content wasn't just about having good shows. It was a strategic move that leveraged their vast and growing subscriber base.
Okay.
This massive scale allowed them to amortize the enormous cost of acquiring or producing content over millions of subscribers. That drastically reduced their content cost per subscriber.
Propels profitability.
A clear benefit, yes. Simultaneously, this massive investment in unique content, coupled with their sheer number of users, created a significant barrier against market share onslaughts from competitors.
Because new guys couldn't match the library or the cost.
Exactly. New entrants couldn't immediately replicate that content library or reach that many users at the same low per user cost. It's a classic example of using scale as a profound source of enduring competitive power, building both benefits and barriers.
Building on that, when we look at high-tech markets, crossing the chasm introduces a critical concept that distinguishes success from failure.
Yes, the chasm.
The significant gap or chasm that exists between the early visionary customers and the much larger, more cautious, mainstream pragmatist customers.
That's a huge hurdle. Visionaries will take risks on unproven tech, they love innovation, they tolerate glitches.
But the mainstream, not so much.
Not at all. Pragmatists, the vast majority of the market, demand demonstrable value, proven reliability, complete solutions. They don't buy vaporware.
So crossing that chasm is key.
Absolutely. Successfully crossing this chasm, transitioning from serving early adopters to winning over the mainstream, is often the primary focus of long-term high-tech marketing plans. It's precisely where fortunes are made or lost.
Because many startups just don't make it across.
Exactly. Many promising technologies and innovative startups never make it past the early market because they fail to bridge this divide. It proves that innovative technology alone isn't enough. You need a focused strategy to reach and convert that broader, more skeptical market.
Another crucial element for sustained success, coming from good to great, is what they call the hedgehog concept.
The hedgehog concept.
Right.
This isn't about being complicated or chasing 1,000 initiatives. It's about profound simplicity and ruthless focus.
Like a hedgehog rolling into a ball. One defense.
Kind of. Imagine a company trying to find its unique sweet spot, its core identity. It needs to deeply understand the intersection of 3 fundamental circles.
Okay, what are the 3 circles?
First, what are you deeply passionate about? What truly ignites your team's energy, commitment, creativity? Second, what can you be the absolute best in the world at? And this requires brutal honesty, not just good at, but truly unrivaled. It also means being honest about what you can't be best at.
And letting those things go.
Yes. And third, what drives your economic engine? What's the fundamental way you generate profits and sustain your business?
Could you give an example?
Kimberly Clark. They realized they weren't passionate about all paper products, but they could be the best in the world at building brands in specific consumer paper categories: tissues, paper towels, diapers,
And their economic engine.
driven by market share leadership in those specific areas. By focusing relentlessly on this intersection, becoming a hedgehog rather than a fox trying too many things, they made the leap from good to great.
And tying directly into that uniqueness and focus is the differentiation strategy, right?
Absolutely. Playing to win explains that a firm's unique offering needs to differentiate itself in a way that customers value enough to pay a price premium.
So it's not just about being different, but different in a way people will pay for.
Precisely. When this differentiation is successfully achieved, the firm essentially becomes a monopoly supplier for that particular customer group,
A monopoly supplier.
because those customers don't perceive an identical offering elsewhere. They'd have to switch to a different sort of offering if they chose not to buy from you.
So it's about perceived uniqueness.
Exactly. Creating a perceived uniqueness that is so compelling, customers see no direct substitute. The focus, then, is on relentlessly maintaining and enhancing that uniqueness through innovation and consistent delivery, sustaining that crucial competitive advantage. Hashtag 2.2 organizational levers for success.
Okay, moving from the broad dynamics of the market to more internal organizational strengths, culture emerges as a profoundly strategic asset, doesn't it? Not just a nice to have.
Definitely not. Blitz scaling highlights how strong organizational cultures lead to consistent answers and actions from employees regarding goals, values, desired behavior. It's like the silent operating system of your company.
And a strong culture isn't just about feeling good.
No, it translates into concrete operational advantages and a distinct competitive edge. For example, PayPal, known for its intense problem-solving culture, instituted a rigorous problem-solving test as part of its engineering hiring. They weren't just screening for coding ability, but for a mindset focused on big-picture problem-solving, intellectual debate, rapid iteration, the hallmarks of their culture.
And LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, similarly, consciously sought out individuals who were hardworking yet family-oriented. They ensured candidates who believed in working till 10 p.m. every night, or those who only wanted a strict 9 to 5, were screened out.
Even if they were talented.
Yes, regardless of their individual talent, if they didn't fit the culture. This commitment to cultural fit, sometimes even prioritizing it over A players who might not align, ensures organizational cohesion, efficiency, and consistent strategic execution.
So culture acts as a powerful filter.
A very powerful filter for who you bring in and how everyone behaves.
This focus on core strengths, discipline choices, and cultural alignment sounds like the where to play and how to win framework. P&G used this, right?
Brilliantly exemplified by P&G in Playing to Win, yes. P&G consciously focused their efforts, making explicit choices about where to play.
Like which brands or markets.
Exactly. What core brands, geographies, channels, technologies, and consumer segments they would target as a strategic platform for growth. They didn't try to be everything to everyone. They ruthlessly prioritized.
And then they figured out how to win.
Yes, they articulated how to win within those chosen domains. For instance, they expanded their portfolio with entirely new product categories like Swiffer and Febreze.
Right, huge successes.
By leveraging their deep understanding of consumer needs and their innovation capabilities in chemistry and marketing. They also famously reinvented oil of Olay.
Taking it more upmarket.
Exactly, taking a mass market brand and elevating its perception, creating a mass prestige experience by focusing on a specific consumer segment within existing mass channels. It's a powerful testament to the clarity and discipline of making explicit strategic choices.
And as competitive environments get more dynamic, our organizational structures need to adapt too.
They absolutely must. Strategic flexibility discusses the emergence of network organizational forms, moving away from traditional, rigid, hierarchical pyramids.
What do these look like?
Instead of fixed departments and rigid reporting lines, imagine rotatable spheres, where self-managing multidisciplinary teams with broad skills and knowledge can quickly form, deploy resources, tackle a specific project or market opportunity, and then reconfigure for the next challenge.
Like tech company squads or tribes.
Exactly like that. This
Yeah.
structure maximizes learning by exposing individuals to diverse problems and teams, and optimizes resource utilization by preventing talent from being siloed.
Requires a lot of trust, though.
A high level of trust, clear objectives, and strong communication from leadership, absolutely. But it's a truly adaptable and resilient approach for our increasingly turbulent world, allowing for rapid innovation and swift market response.
What's fascinating here is how this need for strategic thinking extends even to something like supplier management.
Mhm. The source contrasts traditional arm's-length relationships with true partner models, using the critical example of U.S., Japanese, and Korean automakers.
How do they differ?
Well, Japanese automakers, particularly Toyota, often employed a deeply integrated, true partner model, characterized by extensive information sharing, mutual trust, joint problem solving.
And the U.S. automakers.
Research suggested that U.S. automakers' so-called partner-like relationships often didn't significantly differ from arm's-length ones in key dimensions like information sharing or trust. They might have called it a partnership, but the underlying behaviors didn't match.
So they weren't getting the real benefits.
Likely not. This highlights a critical need for more strategic segmentation of suppliers, recognizing that a one-size-fits-all approach is insufficient. To genuinely realize the benefits of true partnerships, you have to invest in the infrastructure, trust, and shared objectives that go beyond mere contracts to genuine collaboration. Hashtag 2.3 innovation, risk, and the financial landscape. Let's turn our attention now to the critical aspects of innovation, risk, and the sometimes perilous financial landscape.
Okay.
A key takeaway from the lean startup is the imperative to mitigate waste and accelerate learning through validated learning,
Validated learning.
rather than relying on vanity metrics or what they call success theater.
Success theater. What's
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Things that look good but aren't real progress.
Exactly. Like marketing gimmicks that make your product look popular without actually generating real engagement, or squandering precious startup resources on expensive Super Bowl ads that create an illusion of traction.
But don't actually move the needle on sustainable progress or customer validation.
Precisely. The illusion of success can be incredibly costly, diverting precious resources and attention from truly understanding customer needs, validating assumptions, and building sustainable value.
It's about measuring what matters for long-term growth and actual market fit, not just what looks good short-term or boosts egos.
Right. And speaking of long-term growth and the challenges inherent in innovation, the innovator's dilemma introduces a concept that can be really counterintuitive.
Which is?
That good management practices, when applied within established companies, can actually lead to failure when confronted with disruptive technologies.
How can good management lead to failure?
The core idea is that technological progress often outstrips market demand. This causes products to overshoot mainstream customer needs. They become too good, too feature-rich, too powerful for what most customers truly require or want to pay for.
Can you give an example?
In the disk drive industry, products initially competed on core functionality, then reliability, then convenience, like smaller size, and finally price. As each dimension improved beyond what most customers needed, new, simpler, and initially inferior disruptive technologies, often cheaper, smaller, or more convenient, but with lower performance, found a foothold at the lower end of the market.
And the established players ignored them.
They dismissed them because they didn't serve their most demanding, high-profit customers. But then these disruptive technologies rapidly improved,
And eventually it took over.
eventually unseating the established players who were too busy serving their mainstream customers' evolving and often overshot needs. It's a powerful lesson in how deep customer focus can sometimes blind companies to emerging threats.
So what does this all mean for the financial world, where innovation can be even more complex and, well, opaque?
Yeah, the perils of financial innovation are starkly illustrated in The Big Short.
Oh, the CDOs.
Exactly. The book describes collateralized debt obligations, or CDOs, not as a genuine advancement in risk management, but as essentially a credit laundering service.
Credit laundering.
These complex instruments could seemingly turn lead into gold by obscuring risk through layers of complexity and repackaging subprime mortgages, effectively hiding the true danger within a seemingly diversified portfolio.
What's the irony here?
The irony is profound. The original purpose of mortgage-backed bonds was supposed to be to redistribute risk efficiently and transparently across the market.
But these new innovations did the opposite.
Instead, they made financial markets less transparent, less efficient, and far more precarious, hiding systemic risk within these black box structures.
Is there a specific example?
A chilling real-world example. Morgan Stanley, one of the titans of Wall Street, abruptly stopped selling subprime mortgage insurance overnight, without warning. A sudden, complete halt. It signaled that even they, at the highest levels, realized the precariousness and the true hidden toxicity of what they had created and were actively selling. It was a dramatic admission that the system was fundamentally broken.
Wow. This brings us back to risk and reward, doesn't it?
It really does. And to a fundamental law of finance, as reiterated in a random walk down Wall Street, investment rewards increase only with greater risk.
No free lunch.
Basically, no. This isn't a moral judgment. It's a verifiable empirical principle supported by centuries of historical data across all asset classes. To earn higher returns, you must expose yourself to a greater probability of loss.
And our psychology plays a role here, too.
A huge role. The most important thing adds a crucial psychological layer. During market downturns or periods of high volatility, a loss of confidence, driven by fear and panic, can cause investors to sell their assets at the very bottom.
Turning paper losses into real ones.
Exactly. This emotional decision converts what were temporary fluctuations in market value into permanent, irretrievable losses. It underscores how deeply the human equation, particularly our emotions, impacts rational financial decision-making, often leading us to do the exact opposite of what long-term success requires.
Finally, let's talk about entrepreneurship itself. It's often romanticized, right?
Very much so. But from the essential Drucker, we learn that entrepreneurship and innovation are not natural or spontaneous bursts of creativity. Instead, they are work.
Hard work.
Yes,
Yeah.
they must be consciously striven for and practiced, requiring a deliberate, systematic approach. They don't just happen.
So how do you make them happen?
Drucker argues that innovation requires a specific structure that allows people to be entrepreneurial, provides the necessary resources, and crucially, rewards the right behaviors, not just effort, but results, and that validated learning we talked about.
And you need to protect the new ideas.
Critically, he emphasizes the necessity of organizing the new and innovative initiatives separately from the old and established operations. This gives innovation the space, focus, and different metrics it needs to thrive without being stifled by existing bureaucracies or short-term demands.
It's about building a machine for continuous invention, not just waiting for inspiration.
Exactly. Now, let's turn our attention to the crucial domain of leadership and management. It's important, I think, to first distinguish between the two.
Okay. Management versus leadership. How do they differ?
Well, the technology of management, think reporting structures, budgets, control processes, measuring performance, that's highly developed. We have clear frameworks and tools for that.
Right.
But our understanding of leadership remains, well, more fuzzy. It's less about a defined set of tasks.
And more about influence.
Exactly. More about an elusive quality of influence.
That's a great point. Leadership isn't so much about what you do in terms of specific tasks, as much as it is about how you do it, the presence you project, the influence you wield, your ability to inspire and empower others.
It's less about the mechanics and more about the impact.
Right. This distinction becomes incredibly clear when we look at examples of extreme ownership in action, like Task Unit Bruiser and Ramadi from Extreme Ownership.
Indeed. In the toughest combat environments imaginable, detailed mission planning and briefing weren't just formalities, they were absolutely critical to success.
Every detail covered.
Every potential threat, every contingency, every responsibility identified and assigned with precision. What's particularly striking, though, beyond the planning, is the relentless aggression of SEAL snipers in confronting what they saw as an evil enemy.
But it wasn't just aggression.
No, this wasn't just brute force. It was aggression with purpose, extreme discipline, and unwavering accountability. Every enemy fighter killed directly contributed to more friendly forces and civilians surviving.
A tangible, immediate impact.
Yes, underscoring the gravity of their actions. This isn't just about following orders, it's about taking full, unequivocal responsibility for the mission's outcome.
Pushing beyond your assigned role.
Yes, and understanding the broader, sometimes moral impact of every decision and action. That kind of ownership defines truly effective leadership, not just in combat, but in any complex, challenging environment where the stakes are high and excuses just aren't an option.
It's about seeing yourself as the ultimate determinant of success, regardless of external factors. Right. This raises an important question, though. How do effective leaders consistently achieve exceptional results through others, especially when those individuals might have, imperfections?
That's key. The effective executive provides a powerful and often counterintuitive answer. They focus on making strengths productive.
Focus on strengths, not weaknesses.
Exactly. Consciously asking, what can this person do? Rather than dwelling on what can they not do. And this applies not only to subordinates, but also to superiors and even to yourself.
That's an attitude shift.
A profound one. Viewing people as opportunities, recognizing that, as Drucker notes, only strength produces results. Weakness, by itself, only produces headaches. The absence of weakness produces nothing valuable. Effective executives ruthlessly build on strengths, turning individual talents into collective performance.
Continuing on managing relationships, managing your boss offers some incredibly practical, often overlooked insights.
Like what?
It's crucial to appreciate your boss's goals, their unique pressures, their strengths, their weaknesses, and even their preferred working style.
How they like to get information.
Exactly. Do they prefer detailed memos, formal meetings, quick calls, or an informal chat? Do they thrive on debate or try to minimize conflict? Understanding these nuances, these sort of operating instructions for your boss,
Allows you to adapt your approach.
right? This isn't about sucking up. It's about strategic alignment and building an effective, productive working relationship that helps both of you achieve your objectives more efficiently.
That makes sense. And while a manager's focus has to be upward, towards the enterprise goals,
Right.
the practice of management makes it clear that the manager's responsibility also runs profoundly downward to their team.
How should that relationship work?
According to Drucker, it should be one of duty rather than a supervision. It's about serving and enabling your team to achieve their objectives, removing obstacles, providing resources, fostering their growth.
Not just watching over them.
Exactly, rather than simply dictating tasks or monitoring their every move. This foundational understanding of duty and reciprocal responsibility is absolutely key to fostering trust, building morale, and achieving high, sustainable performance within a team. Hashtag tag 3.2 Mastering Influence and Communication. Shifting now to the critical art of influence and communication, one of the most powerful habits we can cultivate, as described in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is seeking first to understand, then to be understood.
Diagnose before you prescribe.
Exactly, which is a hallmark of true professionals in any field, right? Medicine, engineering, sales.
It's so much harder than it sounds, though, isn't it? We're all so quick to offer advice or solutions to jump in with our own perspective.
We really are. The anecdote of the communication problem between a husband and wife illustrates this beautifully.
Oh, so?
The husband, driven by his left brain desire for specifics, kept asking for something concrete about her feelings, while the wife, processing through her right brain, could only articulate general feelings about her priorities and emotions.
They were just talking past each other.
Completely, because neither truly understood the other's frame of reference. Empathic listening with the real intent to understand, to step into another's shoes and see the world as they see it.
It feels risky sometimes.
It is risky and vulnerable because you open yourself up to be influenced, but it's absolutely foundational for building genuine influence and high emotional bank accounts with others. You simply can't truly influence someone or solve a problem effectively until they feel deeply and truly understood.
What's fascinating here is how this contrasts with certain advertising techniques aimed at building belief, like we touched on earlier with breakthrough advertising.
Right. The objective there isn't necessarily deep empathic understanding in a conversational sense, but building belief simultaneously with desire.
How do they do that?
You don't just state claims about your product, you interlace new statements with credibility. This might involve citing studies, endorsements, testimonials, or demonstrating a process that seems to prove the claim.
So you build trust alongside attraction.
Exactly. The goal is to make the message more palatable and believable, subtly building that trust. It's about constructing a narrative where the desired belief feels like an inevitable conclusion, not just a presented fact.
This raises an important question about how deeply cultural context impacts communication, which can have profound consequences.
Oh, absolutely. Outliers discusses cultural generalizations in communication styles using the chilling real-world example of the Avianca Flight 52 crash.
What happened there?
The Colombian pilots, operating within a culture that often values indirect communication and deference to authority, struggled to explicitly and directly inform air traffic control of their critical fuel status.
Their language wasn't clear enough.
It was polite, but lacked the urgent, unequivocal clarity needed in a dire life-or-death situation. This was contrasted with how a pilot from a more direct communication culture, say, an American pilot, might be expected to be far more assertive.
Using phrases like, "we are declaring an emergency."
Exactly. It's not about judging one style as inherently better or worse, but recognizing how deeply ingrained cultural norms can affect clarity and, tragically, in high-stakes environments, even outcomes.
It highlights the vital importance of understanding these nuances across cultures, especially when critical decisions depend on crystal clear information.
Definitely. And in any group setting, especially when tackling complex problems, disagreements aren't just inevitable.
They can be good.
As the discipline of teams emphatically states, they should be welcomed and even celebrated. They are, in fact, a wellspring for team progress.
So how do you manage them constructively?
An enlightened approach involves a powerful technique. Have the disputants articulate their opponent's view to the opponent's complete satisfaction.
Make sure they really understand the other side.
Yes. Only after this mutual, in-depth understanding is genuinely achieved do they then identify the best parts of both perspectives to integrate, rather than simply compromising or conceding.
So it's not about meeting in the middle.
It's about fostering genuine synthesis, where the resulting solution is often superior to either initial perspective. It transcends individual viewpoints and can create truly innovative outcomes. #tag 3.3, embracing adaptation and ethical action.
Okay, to wrap up our deep dive, let's explore the critical intertwined themes of adaptation and ethical action.
Right. Michael Porter, reflecting on the reception of his seminal book Competitive Strategy, noted that it exceeded my most optimistic expectations in launching an entirely new field of strategic thought.
What's the implication there?
This reflection in itself subtly implies that even the most robust frameworks and well-researched ideas must constantly evolve and adapt to remain relevant and impactful. Strategy is never static.
It's a living process.
A living, breathing, continuously adapting process, much like an organism in a changing environment.
And often this adaptation is driven by a commitment to deeper values. Right, like with Patagonia.
Exactly. Patagonia's experience, documented in Let My People Go Surfing, provides a compelling, real-world example of how doing the right thing can, remarkably, prove to be more profitable in the long run.
How did that work for them?
Every decision they made to prioritize ethical and sustainable practices, whether using organic cotton, recycling materials, repairing gear instead of replacing it, even if initially more costly or seemingly inconvenient.
It paid off later.
It turned out to be more profitable in the long run. This not only strengthened their brand loyalty and attracted top talent, but also reduced their environmental footprint and waste.
It shows that economic success and ethical action aren't mutually exclusive.
Not at all. In fact, they can be deeply synergistic. It strengthens confidence in a path towards sustainability and active problem-solving.
This connects sharply to the ethical stakes in complex financial decisions, where the line between legal and ethical can get really blurred.
Figures like Andrew Fastow at Enron were willing to push the parameters of the possible, meticulously following the letter of the rules while flagrantly violating their intent.
Revealing a lack of moral compass.
Absolutely. A willingness to exploit loopholes for personal and corporate gain, irrespective of the broader societal consequences. When such an individual is placed in an environment with misaligned objectives or weak oversight,
It's dangerous.
it can create a Molotov cocktail effect, leading to catastrophic outcomes. This stands in stark contrast to the argument in The Technological Revolution in Financial Services.
What does that say?
It suggests that universities need to teach more about the social and moral considerations of financial decision-making, moving beyond purely technical topics to instill a deeper sense of ethical responsibility in future leaders.
And that broader ethical framework extends to our societal structures, too.
It does. The road to serfdom introduces a critical distinction between the absolute supremacy or predominance of regular law, what we call the rule of law, where laws apply equally to all, and arbitrary power, or the just state of National Socialism, which necessarily implies discrimination and subjective application of power.
What's the argument about the free market?
The argument is made that the free market, governed by clear and equally applied rules, is in fact the only mechanism for participatory democracy, allowing individuals to make choices and express preferences through economic activity.
And the argument for individualism.
What's particularly powerful is the observation that the argument for individualism, for the inherent dignity and liberty of each person, is subtle and sophisticated, requiring careful analysis and reasoned thought.
Whereas collectivism,
By contrast, the emotional argument for collectivism, for the primacy of the group over the individual, is often simple if false, making it immediately appealing, but, the book argues, ultimately dangerous for individual liberty and economic freedom.
finally, as we navigate decisions both personal and organizational, the effective executive offers a crucial caution
What's that?
against what it calls the most dangerous of all possible decisions,
Yeah.
the one that might work if nothing whatever goes wrong.
The miracle decision.
Exactly. These decisions, driven by excessive optimism or a desperate hope that all variables will align perfectly while tempting, are grossly improbable.
We can't rely on miracles.
We really can't. We must strive for robust, well-considered plans that account for reality's inevitable bumps, unforeseen challenges, and surprises. It's about designing for resilience, not for perfection. Wow, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, haven't we? From the predictable irrationality of our minds and the power of cultivating effectiveness.
To the foundations of competitive advantage, the processes of innovation, and the dynamics of ethical leadership and societal structures is quite a range.
It really is. What truly stands out, for me at least, is how interconnected all these insights are, regardless of their original domain.
Whether you're making personal decisions about habits, leading a team through a tough project, or navigating a competitive market, understanding these underlying mechanisms.
Our biases, strategy, ethics.
Right. Understanding all that truly is a shortcut, not just to being well-informed, but more importantly, to being consistently effective and making a real impact.
Absolutely. It's about seeing the threads that connect seemingly disparate fields, revealing those universal truths.
Yeah.
So, deep divers, as you reflect on how deeply our emotions and preconceived notions shape our individual and collective actions, here's a provocative thought for you to carry forward, given everything we've discussed today. What is one assumption you hold about your own behavior, or maybe that of your organization, that you are now willing to rigorously re-examine? Perhaps it's a sure thing that relies on everything going perfectly right, or a decision you made because it just felt right without a real rigorous challenge. Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Until next time.